decent while ago, I started writing what I wanted to become a giant, comprehensive, and in-depth look at the Outer Worlds, mainly because I liked it and saw that online discourse around the game had turned from "it's really good" at launch to "it sucks" at present writing, and found that a lot of people in camp "it sucks" were of the mindset that disliking something with a high metascore makes you cool and far more likely to attract the attention of gamer girls, and gamer guys will see you as a proper Chad of their own design, because being contrarian without any reasoning as to why is cool, right? And yeah, I do realize the irony in making a monologue specifically swimming against the current of naysayers, but tell that to my agent. This review I wrote got to be at least a couple words long, and I spent a couple hours wearing out my voice and drying out my throat reading it all before I decided to never actually edit any of it into video form, because after reading it all, I realized that the thing that I had enjoyed thinking about and writing over the course of literally weeks straight was, in a nutshell, really boring. And if something I so thoroughly enjoyed became so much of a chore that grinding out numbers every day in what is admittedly a sick anime MMO became preferable to working on my magnum opus, then, well, you probably wouldn't have liked it either. That said, I still want to talk about the Outer Worlds, but in a more concise manner that won't be more dry than a bread sandwich, or in this case the thing was like a toast sandwich, with maybe a little butter, because it wasn't that bad. So first I'm going to dismiss a lot of the popular critique from reviewers far better at this sort of thing than I am, because the Outer Worlds is a comedy, and it's genuinely startling how many people I've seen fail to realize this or care about it, or simply deliberately miss the point of the game. The most notable example of this is from a YouTuber who I thought was really good before I saw his video on the Outer Worlds, Never Knows Best. Maybe I liked him initially because he didn't immediately drop on his knees for the throbbing phallus that is the internet's love for The Witcher 3, or maybe it's because his name is, as far as I'm concerned, a reference to Fooly Cooley, one of the objectively greatest coming-of-age stories ever created. So this dude comes in here talking mad shit about how ridiculous the premise of the game is, and even has the audacity to go into the dumbest specific he possibly could have. One of the first quests in the game has you collecting gravesite fees for this big corporation, for people who are still alive. This premise is intentionally dumb, and it gets dumber when you find out that the fees you're collecting are for a guy who shot himself, and the woman paying them is not his family, friend, or anyone emotionally close. She just found his body first. But this is a joke. If you're going around looking at this totally straight-faced and completely ignoring the delivery, I can only imagine you as a person whose favorite food is oatmeal and favorite book is Infinite Jest, despite having only ever skimmed through a plot synopsis from a blog mostly otherwise dedicated to anime titties. That's not to say there aren't genuine critiques, and many of them, to be made about this game and its message, which can be summarized by me simply hitting Ctrl F and typing Corporation Bad into my notes/timestamps I wrote when recording my playthrough, and I even got lazy with writing them down in the back half of the game. The very left-leaning message of this game slaps you in the face again and again, but it's done with the force of a toddler swinging al dente spaghetti at a wall to see if it sticks, and lo and behold, it does. I don't care what your politics are, in this video I am God, and while the message may kinda slap, so too does Jesus, but Kanye also made Jesus his king, so nothing is without its flaws. So now, if I'm talking mad shit, what's there to like about this game? Well, there's a specific word to focus on in the previous sentence, and it's the last one. That was game, by the way. The Outer Worlds is a video game designed to be a video game, not a book, not a character study, not a philosophical dive on the Sisyphean nature of being alive. You get to kill bad guys and solve problems, all while watching your numbers go up and up. Looking for meaning beyond that, rather than within that, is a mistake and an exercise in futility. Regarding those two systems, solving problems is fun, and there are a lot of ways to do it, and killing bad guys is fun, and there are 2 ways to do it. It takes all of 5-ish hours to make most combat encounters obsolete if you're even remotely trying to make a good build, but for games of this genre and delivery, there is no example of combat that feels smoother or more satisfying. Regarding games of this style, it's also remarkably bug-free, which, after playing other modernized CRPGs, shook me to my goddamn core. I almost said Bethesda there. I'm basically refusing to give a real rundown of gameplay here, because that's mostly what bored me to death in the first place, but for those of you who played Fallout 3 or New Vegas, it's that, but better. For those of you that didn't, and also can't make out what it's like from the clips running in the background, I can't help you, and I'm sorry about the freak accident that left you lacking 98% vision in both eyes. Speaking of eyes, I hope you have working ones, because the Outer Worlds looks really good, not because of its fidelity or face mapping or lighting engine or physics or optimization or the entire middle, like 2/5 of the game, but because of its art direction and its use of color, which was designed with color blindness in mind, so a lack of visual clarity is something you'll never find yourself worrying about. You get dumped into scenic vistas and futuristic cities and prison planets and this garbage dump and derelict spaceships, and it's all mostly pretty cool. Now, when I talk about sound design in the Outer Worlds, I really need you to stick with me because I'm going to copy-paste here the script from my over hour-long review, partially because I'm a flawed person similar to Kanye West and wanted to save myself some effort, but also because I actually liked what I wrote. It's also more serious in tone than the rest of this, but it's because I'm actually serious about how well it works. The sound in the Outer World is one of the few things that I genuinely have nothing bad to say about, so I'll just gush about everything, but we're starting with the music, composed by Justin E. Bell, who also did music for other Obsidian games like New Vegas and the Pillars of Eternity series, so the man does have an impressive resume when it comes to atmosphere, and atmosphere is what he delivers here in spades. These aren't tracks that will have you humming their melody randomly throughout the day, but what they will do is transport you to another planet. Whether you're overlooking a grand vista, uncovering a new mystery, or finding comfort in a spacecraft with your crew, there are sounds that will directly deliver you there. Combat sounds awesome, and is a big reason I suggest playing with headphones on. You won't be listening for footsteps or gunshots off in the distance like in multiplayer shooters, but the sheer chaos of a firefight is something to behold. Every weapon type makes a different sound, such that you can tell what type of weaponry your enemies have before you even see them. Your allies call out to you or taunt your enemies, your own weapons make extremely satisfying bangs and pews, and blunt melee weapons make this excellent thud. If affected with health draining effects, your companions will scream in agony, and it's so visceral and believable. Enemies will shout at you or to their allies, or sometimes scream and cower in fear, and this all happens in basically every fight that lasts more than a few seconds. Even the sound of drawing your weapon is cool. Everyone is unique, with melee weapons in my opinion being the best. Looting, despite its excess, remains enjoyable throughout the game in no small part due to sound design. Every single interactable container has, as far as I can tell, a unique sound. Bodies, crates, drawers, lockers, refrigerators, whenever you open them. And inside, every type of item has a sound associated with picking it up, and there are a ton of these. Meds, bottles, foods, bits, ammo, guns, various pieces of junk, they're all Foleyed. And each of these sounds fills something deep inside of me with a liquid hell yeah, and honestly, I'm not even sure why. Refrigerators, man. Last thing I'll really go in on for sound is the voice acting, and I'll preface this by saying, look, I like to read as much if not more than the next guy. I actually read books and like to go through notes scattered about video games. Sometimes text can tell a story that you straight up can't through another medium. So yes, I like reading, but even that has its limits. I do not enjoy when a game becomes about reading. Honestly, this has prevented me from enjoying a lot of the old Fallouts and many other CRPGs in general, where there was so much goddamn text it's like you're playing in a fantasy novel. I don't play games to turn off my brain, but that doesn't mean I play them for the purpose of literary analysis either. I love NPCs, but I'm of the opinion that in video games, especially modern ones, silence is deafening. Which is all to say that I fully adore the voice work in the Outer Worlds. It seems like every interactable character has a new voice actor, and it amounts to countless unique voices pushing you along through your adventure. The easiest comparison to draw is to Skyrim or even Fallout 4, where voice talent would be repeated and reused over and over again, making every NPC outside of extremely specific circumstances totally forgettable. In the Outer Worlds, not only are the voices unique, but even with such a huge cast, there are very few that I would say fell short, and every one of those that does is a one-off character that takes part in a single side quest, and most of those are helmeted and faceless anyways. It's easy to let things like that slide when the majority of the cast is rock solid and delivers anywhere from like 6 to hundreds of unique lines of dialogue. Outstanding work from the sound team on this game. They showcase not only technical prowess, but creativity to match and elevate the themes of the rest of the experience. Thank you, Past Me, for spending a goddamn year on that. Finally, the most important piece of it all that I wrote a million times in my previous analysis, but clearly failed to understand, is that the Outer Worlds is brief, like 25 to 30 hours brief. And in the arguably wise, and as of writing this video relevant words from Jason Schreier, video games are too long. I was like 5 years old when I last enjoyed a gameplay loop that kept me for longer than like 34 hours, and hey, maybe I'm in the minority here, but this shit turns me off faster than I turn off my brain when I see another person recommending The Witcher 3, and its decade-old at the time of release combat and piss-poor map design that makes World of Warcraft side quests look like fun. Am I stepping on your toes yet? I'm pretty much done here, but completely seriously, the game is fun, it's funny, the characters are great, it's absolutely free of frustration, and it's brief enough that it never outstays its welcome. If what you saw looks even remotely up your alley, or you value my opinion on video games, I think you owe it to yourself to find a way to play this game, as it has a really few interesting tricks up its sleeve that, while I would love to talk about them, would end up in total opposition to the point I made in keeping this iteration of the video brief. Thanks for watching, idiot.